Everyone, and welcome back to the show that you settle for when you're so desperate for content you just want something. That's right, Page Bait. That is the show where I read and react to the first 3 pages of the most popular novels that I know nothing about. And today's book, I know a little something about. Actually, by that I mean I know the author, which is Brandon Sanderson. Now, I have read a couple of Brandon Sanderson books and very much enjoyed them, so I will probably enjoy the first 3 pages of this one too. That said, the Brandon Sandersons I have read have tended to be the lesser known ones, and I think that the only reason for that is not because, I'm a hipster and I only want to read the lesser known ones, but it's probably because those ones happen to be available for rent on Libby, whereas the most popular ones I would have to have spent money for, and I didn't want to do that because I am Scrooge McDuck and super cheap, except without his money, but with his attitude towards money. Let's go ahead and have a look-see at Mistborn. All I know about this is that it's a fantasy and it was written by Brandon Sanderson. So let's see what the first 3 pages have to offer. Why would you list the books written by Brandon Sanderson at the beginning of his book? Hasn't he written like 3 million books? It's one of those authors that can just crank out books like it's nobody's business. I'm one of those ones that have to take like four freaking ever to write a book. Prologue. Not interested. I'm sure the prologue does provide interesting information, but I'm gonna What? 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 You are only showing the prologue in the sample? Am I gonna have to just read the prologue? What is this? The prologue is usually like different than the actual story. What is his, does he have like Tolkien type copyright lawyers that are like, no, you don't actually get to know what you're gonna read. We know we can do that because he's so powerful. You get no glimpse, no preview, no nothing. All right, well, I guess I'm just going to read a couple pages of the prologue and hope that this is an accurate representation of what the rest of the book looks like. Because in my experience, prologues are often written like in a different style and they feature different characters, and I mean they're usually useful, but not like an accurate representation of what the rest of the book's going to be. But we'll have to settle for it because I don't make the rules, I just work within them most of the time. Ash fell from the sky. That could be. I just simultaneously pictured Ash from Evil Dead and also Ash from Pokemon falling from the sky. I know what he meant. This is a me problem. It's not you, Brandon Sanderson. It's me. Lord Trusting frowned, glancing up at the ruddy midday sky as his servant scuttled forward, opening a parasol over Trusting and his distinguished guest. Ash falls weren't that uncommon in the final empire, but Trusting had hoped to avoid getting soot stains on his fine new suit coat and red vest, which had just arrived via canal boat from Luthadel. Luthadel. These fantasy names are not too bad so far. I think I can handle these. The hardcore fans are probably like, no, you're pronouncing that wrong. But just bear with me. I'm doing the best I can, guys. Fortunately, there wasn't much wind. The parasol would likely be effective. So, for some reason, the image coming to my head here is you got like this dark and gritty fantasy scape with ash falling and like this you know, lord dressed in like black, dark and gritty, and he has like a little pink parasol over him. I don't know that's the image that Brandon Sanderson's going for. And again, this is not a book problem. This is a me problem. Trusting stood with his guest on a small hilltop patio that overlooked the fields. He's got his parasol and his patio. Very nice. Hundreds of people in brown smocks worked in the falling ash, caring for the crops. There was a sluggishness to their efforts, but of course that was the way of the ska. The peasants were an indolent, unproductive lot. They didn't complain. They knew better than that. Instead, they simply worked with bowed heads, moving about their work with quiet apathy. The passing whip of the taskmaster would force them into dedicated motion for a few moments, but as soon as the taskmaster moved on, they would return to their languor. The problem is I'm still picturing this guy on his like his nice, like, composite patio with his little parasol, looking out over his slaves. It is. This is me. It's all me. My brain is broken. There's nothing wrong with this book. This or the way this is written. It's me. It's me. I'm sorry. Tresting turned to the man standing beside him on the hill. One would think, Tresting noted, that 1,000 years of working in fields would have bred them a little more effective at it. That's the only voice that goes with that pink frilly parasol. Oh yeah, it's got lace in it. Did I mention that? The obligator turned, raising an eyebrow, the motion done as if to highlight his most distinctive feature, the intricate tattoos that laced the skin around his eyes. The tattoos were enormous, reaching all the way across his brow and up to the sides of his nose. This was a full prelan, a very important obligator indeed. Trusting had his own personal obligators back at the manor, but they were only minor functionaries with barely a few marks around their eyes. This man had arrived from Luthadel with the same canal boat that had brought Trusting's new suit. You should see City Ska, Tressing asked. Fans be like, it's pronounced Ska. That's how the fans talk. I don't know. I'm just making that up. Turning back towards to watch the Ska workers. These were actually quite diligent compared to those in Luthadel. You have more direct control over your Ska here. How many would you say you lose a month? Oh, half a dozen or so, Tresting said. Some to beatings, some to exhaustion. Runaways? Never, Tresting said. When I first inherited this land from my father, I had a few runaways, but I executed their families. The rest quickly lost heart. I've never understood men who have trouble with their ska. I find the creatures easy to control, if you show a properly firm hand. The obligator nodded, standing quietly in his gray robes. He seemed pleased, which was a good thing. The ska weren't actually Trusting's property. Like all ska, they belonged to the Lord Ruler. Trusting only leased the workers from his god, much in the same way he paid for the services of his obligators. The obligator looked down, checking his pocket watch, then glanced up at the sun. Despite the ashfall, the sun was bright this day, shining a brilliant crimson red behind the smoky blackness of the upper sky. I think this world needs new management. This is kind of like how, like, when, Mufasa was the king, like, the Pride Lands was super pretty, and then when Scar took over, it was, like, dark and rainy all the time. That's what I'm thinking is happening here. We need, like, we need, like, a manager to come in this world and, like, implicate, or, like, implement the methods from Radical Candor, and then all the scars come and start using like Brene Brown methods to fix everything, and the sky clears up. Trusting removed a handkerchief and wiped his brow, thankful for the parasol's shade against the midday heat. Very well, Trusting, the obligator said. Oh wait, that's not Trusting talking. He doesn't have that grizzled voice. He has a normal voice for some reason. Very well, Trusting, the obligator said. I will carry your proposal to the Lord Venture, as requested. He will have a favorable report from me on your operations here. New voice unlocked. Trusting held, in a sigh of relief, an obligator was required to witness any contract or business deal between noblemen. True, even a lowly obligator like the ones Trusting had engaged could serve as such a witness, but it meant so much more to impress Straff Venture's own obligator. Pull that first name from the villain baby name book. It's right below Brad. The obligator turned toward him. I will leave down the canal this afternoon. So soon? Tresting asked. Wouldn't you care to stay for supper? No, the obligator replied, though there is another matter I wish to discuss with you. I came not only at the behest of Lord Venture, but to look in on some matters of for the canton of Inquisition. Rumors say that you like to dally with your scar women. Trusting felt a chill. Oh, scandal? The obligator smiled. He likely meant it to be disarming, but Trusting only found it eerie. Don't worry yourself, Trusting, the obligator said. If there had been any real worries about your actions, a steel inquisitor would have been sent here in my place. Trusting nodded slowly. Inquisitor. He never seen one of the inhuman creatures, but he had heard stories. Ooh. I have been satisfied regarding your actions with the Scar women, the obligator said, looking back over the fields. What I have seen and heard here indicate that you always clean up your messes. A man such as you, efficient, productive, could go far in Luthadel. A few more years of work, some inspired, mercantile deals, and who knows? The obligator turned away, and Trusting found himself smiling. It wasn't a promise, or even an endorsement, for the most part. Obligators were more bureaucrats and witnesses than they were priests. But to hear such praise from one of the Lord Ruler's own servants. Trusting knew that some nobility regarded the obligators as unsettling. Some even considered them a bother. But at that moment, Trusting could have kissed his distinguished guest. Takes on a new meaning when I'm picturing him with like a pink frilly umbrella. Trusting turned back toward the ska, who worked quietly beneath the bloody sun and the lazy flakes of ash. Trusting had always been a country nobleman, living on his plantation, dreaming of perhaps moving to Luthadel itself. He had heard of the balls and the parties, the glamour and the intrigue, and it excited him to no end. I'll have to celebrate tonight, he thought. There was that young girl in the 14th hovel that he'd been watching for some time. Oh my. He smiled again. A few more years of work, the obligator had said, but could Trusting perhaps speed that up if he worked a little harder? His Scot population had been growing lately. Perhaps if he pushed them a bit more, he could bring in an extra harvest this summer and fulfill his contract with Lord Venture in extra measure. So what I'm thinking about right now is that the way his ska is kind of like how I treat my wolves in Minecraft. Like I just breed a ton of them, and then when I go down into the mines, I take like an army of wolves, and like half of them just die from zombies immediately. But I don't care because I just breed like a million more wolves in Minecraft because I am a bad person in Minecraft, and so is Trusting apparently. Trusting nodded as he watched the crowd of lazy ska, some working with their hoes, others on hands and knees, pushing the ash away from the fledgling crops. They didn't complain, they didn't hope, they barely dared to think. That was the way it should be, for they were ska. They were. Trusting froze as one of the ska looked up. The man met Trusting's eyes, a spark, no fire, of defiance showing in his expression. Trusting had never seen anything like it, not in the face of a ska. Trusting stepped backward reflexively, a chill running through him as the strange, straight-backed ska held his eyes and smiled. He's like, "Hey, Dad." Anyway, that's 3 pages. Does it tell me anything about the actual story? I don't actually know. Stop. Yeah, cannot tell you how. I cannot tell you because I haven't actually seen chapter one, and I don't think Lord Trusting is going to be the main character, because usually the prologue is some, like, unrelated character. I bet he's the main character's dad. I bet that's what it's going to be. And it's going to be like a half ska, half Lord Trusting kid who's going to have angst and daddy issues and want to liberate his people, maybe? Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, yeah, I would give this book a chance. I can make no judgment on it based on 3 pages of the prologue. Nothing is standing out to me here. But maybe one day I'll pick it up and add it to my list of Brandon Sanderson reads. I guess I'll have to put it on hold on Libby now, and maybe like in a couple years I'll get to rent it and listen to it. We'll see. Anyway, if you like this sort of content, then that shocks me, but go ahead and like and subscribe to someone else's channel because this one sucks. And if you think of any popular books that you'd like me to read, go ahead and leave them in the comments below this video, and maybe I will read and react to them, assuming that I haven't read them before and know nothing about them. Until next time, I will see you later.